Well, hello again, YouTube and Facebook friends. Here we have a brand new 120 Halverson Wood Processor. As you can see in the previous couple of photos, they do come Fedex Freight. Had a couple pictures there of the grand unloading. And here's our brand new machine. Just wanted to go through a couple of things with you because I've been getting a couple of questions. You know, where's my quick couplers? Where's the documentation? My wire harness for inside the cab? Where's all that stuff at? I don't see it right here on the processor. Probably about mid last year, we decided to go ahead and put everything inside of a big Ziploc bag that goes down inside the body right here of the processor. In there you're going to find your owner's manual, the very important warranty card. This unit is warranted from 90 days once it's been shipped to you. That needs to get filled out and emailed back to me or Halverson directly. My email is sales@shaverequipment.com. Or you can send me a text message, picture, either way. On this tread plate, you'll see over here in the corner it says documentation inside. I'll show you what that looks like once I get it off. The unit is lag bolted down to the all oak pallet. It does take a 1/2-inch wrench or socket combination, however you'd like to do it, to get it apart. I like to have out a pair of cutting pliers, the 1/2-inch socket, at least 1 or 2 adjustable wrenches for when we go ahead and fit this on, and a good handful of zip ties for putting the harness in. So let me go around this a couple of times and we'll get everything cut loose, and I'll kind of show you what I'm doing. So the cutting pliers, there's a safety zip tie on the saw bar so that doesn't come undone and fall during the course of transport. Another one here on the auxiliary hydraulics. Little thing so nothing's getting all scuffed up. Now on this unit, we already have the quick couplers put on. Sometimes I've seen these get shipped where the elbow and the couplers are in that baggie down inside, and there's just like a red plug in here. So go ahead and take that red plug out, and I'll show you how to line these up on the skid steer for an easy installation every time. Go ahead and take our sold sticker off. And I think that's all the zip ties. Now we'll take our driver here and get the lag bolts out. So there's just kind of a custom made just little bracket that just kind of bolts down into the oak pallet and keeps the Halverson from sliding around. So it looks like 3 or 4 of those. Now again, with the same 1/2-inch, on the 120s you will have 5 1/2-inch bolts that hold down this tread plate. There's 4 right here across the top, and then everybody forgets about the 5th one that's on the side. There's 1. There's 2. 3, 4, 5. So there's your sticker. It says documentation inside. So this is the tread plate. And down inside here will be your owner's manual and the controls. Usually, like I said before, the quick couplers and elbows and things. So here's your operator's manual, and usually right inside, there it is, stop. Fill out this warranty information and send it back to me or Halverson or another dealer that you happen to buy from, but hopefully you buy it from me because you're watching my video. Just a little plug there. And here is the harness for the 120. Now if you've seen some of the other videos, the new 140 harnesses do not have this little box in it. this box is to kind of help run the tactile spring safety switches in here. Again, on this model, there's a safety sensor that once the table is all the way back, that gives the saw the okay to drop. And there's another one here for the saw that it has to be all the way back in the stored position before the table advances. That way you don't get a squished saw bar or a cut log tray. So we'll use this here in a minute. We'll set this up on the machine. Then also in here, even if you order this unit with the in-cab harness, you're still going to get the 14-pin adapter. This is in case you ever upgrade your machine, or you happen to sell this to get the bigger 140 or whatever your cases may be. But this is the universal 14-pin with the Halverson adapter that goes from the 14-pin to the actual processor. So we'll just leave this in the baggie for now. We'll go ahead and put our tread plate back on. Down inside the tread plates, your half-gallon oiler right here, all the different valve assemblies and solenoids that make the processor work. It's nothing really for the average customer to work on down inside the tread plate box assembly. There is some stuff in the owner's manual that shows you how to adjust the saw speed. Usually that's for like a lower gallon per minute or a lower pressure kind of machine. And those steps are all outlined in the owner's manual there. That'd really be the only thing that's down inside this tread plate that you have to worry about. The automatic oiler is pretty much set from the factory. At least I don't mess with it often to adjust the oil flow coming out the end. Halverson does a really good job of making sure this processor is pretty much plug and play right off the pallet. Noisy, but it works. Alright, now let's go ahead and get the hydraulics hooked up on this. I am noticing pretty much the couplers are facing the wrong direction. So we're going to go ahead and loosen everything up, attach it to the machine, kind of bounce it a couple of times, let it find that happy place so you're not fighting that connection. Because if the machine's here and the coupler wants to come in sideways, you're always going to have to press that in, and then it's going to wear out all the little internal pieces inside the coupler itself. So let's go ahead and get these loose. And the case drain. Just for all you wondering, the case drain is just a non-pressurized return line. This does run exclusively from the saw motor to this end, to the machine and in. We're using the hydraulics to both power, lubricate, and cool the saw motor. So if there's any excess pressure in that saw motor, just so the seal doesn't blow, we run all that back on a case drain. Call me, send me an email, I can tell you how to install that on your own machine if you don't have one of those. Like an older Bobcat, older New Hollands are kind of suspect to that, but let's go ahead and get these plugged in. Just like to see a nice curve coming up, no S's, no kinks, no twists. Just so every time when you go ahead to put these on your machine, you're not fighting that weird angle to get everything together. Now we just need a small baggie for the harness itself and the wire cutters to get the harnesses taken apart. This is an all oak pallet, so I wouldn't suggest just burn on the pit. Take a chainsaw, buzz it apart, makes great kindling. Alright, so here are two buttons that go inside the cab. They are matched left and right. So when I do the harness on this, I like to start where I end. So I'll go inside the cab, throw this out through one of the windows, and then come back through the back of the shoulder here on the machine, down the arm, and end up here at the quick couplers. Now when I'm using the zip ties, I'll put them on just so they're kind of snug but kind of loose, so we can kind of feed everything through. And then we'll start back here and then go up the boom and just kind of snug things up as we're going. There's always a couple of places, usually a bolt, you know, the little window latches like that to zip tie into. Usually works out pretty nice. Just gotta watch all your pivot points for pinches or cuts. And as I mentioned earlier, the 120 harness is a little bit different than the 140. So I am going to have two connections out here on the end. One's for my 140. This newer connection will be for the 120. I've got enough here, so we'll zip tie this one tight. We'll pull up any slack just so we're not getting anything pinched. Then I'm just going to jump inside the cab and I'll show you what that looks like when I'm all done. Alright, now that we have everything zip tied in, we have our harnesses zip tied into the joysticks. And as you noticed in the first video, there are 3 buttons on each side. I'm going to give you a quick guide, a heads up of what they are. In the owner's manual, there's a nice little full-page diagram. I've had guys copy that and then just stick it right on either window, so it's a quick reference point. The top button on the right is the splitter in. The middle button is the saw drop. It is an automatic return, but you do have to hit and hold the button for the saw to actually drop. And the bottom button is the table return. On your left-hand side, the top button is the grabber arm down. The middle button is the grabber arm up. And then the bottom on the left is also a table return. It's just a redundant button. You don't have to hold both left and right to make it back up. It's kind of an either-or thing. Before we fire the skid steer up, you need to know on your machine how to continually lock the hydraulics in either one direction or the other. The processors only run in one direction of flow. So like on the Bobcat, there's a rocker valve here that I can use to select what direction the hydraulics are going to flow in. You might have used this previously with like a grapple bucket, like your open and close feature. On the Bobcat machines, the front trigger here is to actually lock it in the right direction. So I'll hold this button one way, pull the trigger, and that locks it. I know the Cat machines have another button up on the roof, and John Deere does something different. Your Kubotas have like a toggle button that locks it in one way or the other. Every machine's a little bit different. The key is that you need to know how to lock that in a directional flow one way or the other. The other piece is you will need to have a cigarette plug lighter inside the cab to use these button harnesses. So just make sure you got 12-volt power coming into the cab somewhere. This we just use a braided pair wire back to the battery because the factory one had burned out. I don't feel like tearing the cab apart to get into it. So directional flow, 12-volt supply, again a handful of zip ties. The button diagram is in the owner's manual. Again, guys do copy that and just tape it into the window so they have a quick reference guide. We'll fire the machine up and give it a quick run through. I do suggest running everything at an idle first, just that way if there's any air pockets, you can look for leaks right away, and that way you're not blowing gallons and gallons of hydraulic oil all over the place. Again, everything is tested at the factory. The hydraulics are live, button harnesses are all tested, so there should be minimal stuff. It's more on your end that when you mess with the fittings out here, just make sure everything's all nice and snug. It all appears to be pretty dry. We'll move the camera out of the way, grab a log, we'll make our first cut through this, and we'll get going and process some serious firewood. Stay tuned. All right, well, in about, what, 20-25 minutes, I haven't added up all the different video segments that we've stitched together here, but it's not a very long time. So we went from the back of a FedEx truck back here to the house, got off the pallet, found the owner's manual and things that are down inside the tread plate, got the hydraulics hooked up, ran the harness for the machine, got the buttons installed on the joysticks in the cab, and we processed our first log, all in about 25 minutes. That's not bad. So as you're watching the video, when I'm cutting things, I'm kind of using the trough here as my 16 to 18 inch requirement for my retail sales in the firewood. I do have a 6-way wedge around here somewhere. That's typically what I'm cutting with. That is one of the differences between the 120 and the 140B, is there's no internal log length cut guide. This is just running wide open at a full 22 inches. It's a matter of where you want to stop the piece of wood. I've had guys make little paint marks here on the back of the tray or count the circles over for, you know, their specific length. As you see in my other videos, I have that little jig set up on top. That works phenomenal, but you do need to have the adjustable wedge. That way you get the taller wedge out of it, so there's more height. You can get the log underneath it and stuff. Anyway, one last tip before I let you guys go for the video is, with the processors, unless your 12-volt power supply cuts off with the machine, like mine stays on, the little safety sensors that we talked about earlier in the video, they don't know if the machine is running or not. They're just constant power on. So you want to go ahead and make sure that you unplug your cigarette lighter. Otherwise, you'll come back tomorrow with a dead battery. So one last tip there. And again, thank you for purchasing. This is a brand new Halverson HWP-120 with the adjustable wedge option and inside the cab control harness. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, give us a phone call, send us an email. Happy to give you a sales quote. We've sent stuff this past year from New Jersey all the way out to Oregon, Montana, Washington State. So we've really did a great job last year, hoping for a good year this year. Again, thanks for watching. Check us out on Facebook too. Thanks.